I'm with Matt Alt, author of Pure Invention, and guest on one of. There's his book right there, and guest on this episode. This is the postcard for Patreon supporters. This is what was it, Japanese toys from 1954 to 2000. We went up to Hokkaido to meet my friend Wakaki-san, who has one of the best private collections of toys that I've ever seen. All of it featured in his museum, and well, he calls it his own private Smithsonian. But we're going to be talking about that, is right, and we're going to be
Yes.
talking about that, and also we're going to be talking about the moon landing.
Yes.
In fact, this is like brand new news. This happened just like the day before yesterday or something.
It happened after midnight Japan time yesterday. So JAXA,
Wow.
who is Japan's version of NASA, landed a probe on the moon. They're the fifth nation in all of human history to successfully land something on the moon. But not only that, they're the first nation ever to land a toy on the moon. So this is perfect timing for your stream, for our going up to Hokkaido and everything.
Wait, let me just wake up from that. You said a toy? Is it like a
Yes.
Gundam or something?
No, actually close. So on board that probe was a lander called Sora-Q, SORA-Q. And it looks like a little ball, but when it hits the lunar surface, it cracks open and turns into this little rolling vehicle and takes video and pictures and stuff. It was designed by Takara Tomy, who makes all of the Transformers toys. So this is the first time ever that somebody's landed a Transformer on the moon outside of the Transformers movie series and cartoons.
This is so bizarre.
It's cool.
Only in Japan on the moon. This is crazy.
I know. It's just what a world we live in. There's so much negativity out there, but there's also really cool positive stuff like this. So I just really love stories like this.
Yeah, this is definitely part for Pure Invention book number 2, right?
Yes.
This is like,
all about fantasy.
It's a pretty big deal.
Fantasy becoming a reality.
Yeah, we're now in the reality, and science fiction no longer. Toys are now out there. So that means artificial intelligence in 10 years can make their own toys to send to space in our name without us knowing about it.
Sounds
so
like
kind of
Terminator,
creepy.
like a new Terminator movie when you put it that
way. Skylink goes active and takes over the world. Indeed. This is big news. Is there any other information about this that you know? Because to me, I kind of knew about it, but it was just made headlines. It didn't really go deep into it.
JAXA and it says Matt's audio is low. Should I talk closer to the phone? Hello, can you hear me? The JAXA, which is like Japan's NASA, like I said, they're like, I love them, but they're really, really bad at promoting themselves. So they haven't really talked about this big time. So they launched this probe like 4 months ago. It took all this time to get there because Japan doesn't have the giant rockets that like America and Russia do. So they had to like slingshot around the Earth a bunch of times. It finally arrived 4 months later, which was yesterday.
That's awesome.
And yeah, it's a new technology designed to let lunar probes land without humans taking over the stick at the last minute. So it's really a cool like AI-based landing system, and that was what Japan was testing, and it worked. Like, unfortunately, the way it landed, like the sunlight isn't hitting the solar panels, so the battery ran out really quick. But it landed; it didn't crash. So, good job, Japan.
Yeah. Hey, well, they'll land it. I'm just kind of laughing up internally because you keep saying probe. I don't know what. Maybe it's a Beavis and Butthead in me. I don't know.
I know. Well, it's not a spaceship. What do you call it? A lunar lander? Let's call it a lunar lander. How about that? That way you don't get the double entendre.
Moon toy. I don't know. Like Japan's lunar toys.
I know it sounds kind of.
I don't know. Probe is. I don't know. It's just me, perhaps.
You know what it is?
12-year-old.
I've written about this a lot, and you know how, like in writing and composition, you can't say the same word over and over again. You can't be like a lander.
You said probe like 12 times.
I know. Well, I like probes. Well, certain kinds.
Yeah.
The lunar kind.
We have proctologists weighing in now on this debate and chat here below.
I know. We're old enough.
We're next level old enough to know better. This is the episode on the main channel. This is my other channel, Only in Japan, John Duff, where we went to Hokkaido, and I know a little bit about toys because every one of us that's watching are kids, right? We've all had toys growing up, but most of us watching here are Westerners, and we don't know exactly what was happening. In particular, there was no internet back in the 1970s, 80s, 90s. So the toys from the age before us are kind of new to many of us, like the Ultra Hand. We can start there with Nintendo because
Yes.
I think a lot of people are. We get the most comments from that. First of all, this Ultra Hand, does it have any relationship to what the Ultra Hand is in the Zelda game that's out right
Yes.
now?
Yes. Yes. Good.
Okay,
Good. Yeah. So most people playing the most people who encounter the Ultra Hand as an accessory in the game don't realize it was literally Japan's, excuse me, Nintendo's first toy. Until that point, they'd been like a playing card company, right? Like they made
right.
Hanafuda cards, and they also made some like playing cards, like Western style playing cards. The Ultra Hand was their first toy, that big accordion thing that we played with in Hokkaido. I mean, there's no video of that online. It's so amazing that we managed to not only find it but play with it. I mean, I was like a kid in a toy store, which we were.
That was really crazy, and I kind of I remember when I didn't know what the heck it was when we pulled it out in that video. I just remember I saw your eyes, and you were like, oh my god! Like I'm like, okay, here's a piece of old plastic from the 1960s. Like, no, it's more than that. This is the Ultra Head. Do you understand? This is the first toy ever from Nintendo.
I was a little excited. Yes.
Slightly, but like, how did you even find that thing? He didn't even. This is like a major historical footnote. This toy, and it's hidden in the back under a pile of stuff. Where did you get
I
this?
have a lot of experience spelunking in weird warehouses like this looking for
Yeah, you do.
toys. So it
Yeah,
was
you
born out
do.
of much experience. Like I just knew we were only touching the surface there, right? Because we kind of parachuted in. We only had a limited time. We're like running through. I guarantee you, we could do another, run through there and probably find totally different stuff. But it's yeah. I mean, there's other treasures just slumbering in the corners, like underneath piles of other stuff.
Holy smokes! I think like we didn't even we only had what a 1 day, and the thing though, Matt, and a lot of people don't understand this. If you do watch the video, we're freaking freezing in there. He
Yeah,
doesn't have any heat.
yeah,
We're in Hokkaido.
yeah, yeah.
It's like 6 degrees inside there. There's no heat. It's maybe even colder just because there's no sunlight coming in there, and
Well, it's
we're
funny because I wore my like nice like sweater and stuff, for like when I do my TV appearances and things because
yeah.
I go on TV a lot here in Japan too. And then like we have to wear these bulky like parkas the entire time. You and I look like we're on the Arctic, research mission or something like that. It was free even with that down. That was like a North Face down jacket. It's like a serious mountain climbing slash like skiing, like outdoor sports in the winter kind of thing. And I was still chilled to the bone. It was really great that he had that little like room where he was running he actually had one of those kerosene heaters in it and like the boiling
Yeah,
the water.
we were going back and forth. Just a little note: we were going back and forth between that hot room and then going back up into the freezing toy room. And but Wakaki-san, he's like what 80, and he's fine because he's smoking a cigarette and he's
Oh
got like
man.
this internal heat from the tobacco in there,
Well,
and it was just
bred, born and raised in Hokkaido. He's a local for
Hokkaido.
sure. Well, I love no. It was my first time in Nobori Betsu, and it was. I mean, I don't mean this in a disparaging way. It was like a real one horse town. Like the streets just get like
Mm,
no building is taller than 2 stories. The streets are very
yeah,
wide, and like I remember we like when we woke up the next morning, it had snowed, and it was way early for it to snow from Tokyo from a Tokyo standpoint. Just
right,
dead
right.
quiet. Like I could imagine some gunslinger like coming down this town's not big enough for two toy collectors kind of type coming down the main boulevard. It was a really amazing experience. It was really cool you brought me up with you.
Yeah, I have it actually on the screen right now. For those that are watching, this is the episode, and you can just see a little bit of it right there.
Yes.
We had all these toys. There's Wakaki-san, my friend there, the Game Boy, which is something people were talking a
Oh
lot
yes.
about. They wanted. Why was it discolored like that? Can you actually clean it?
You can. There's a method using like I think it uses like hydrogen peroxide. You have to disassemble it. And this is like been this is a
Ah,
system that's been made by people. The problem with plastic toys is that they discolor. They're just they weren't made
ah,
to they're made to be played with. They're made to be played with for like a couple years. That's like nobody designs a toy to last 20, 30, 50 years. So they like when the sunlight hits them, they get discolored, and there's really usually nothing you can do about it. But there is a way that people have developed using hydrogen peroxide. You put it in a bag and you have to put it in the sun, and then that re-bleaches it. But it's a pretty
ah.
involved process using chemicals and stuff like that. If you look online, like plastic sun bleaching fix, you'll find the like YouTube tutorials and stuff. I've never done it. I actually find the kind of yellowing to be a sign of it's like a veteran of the childhood toy wars kind of thing. But yeah,
Yeah, I was I had a Game Boy as well. I don't know where it is, which is a shame. But I don't think there's any like mint condition. Is there? I
no.
guess
Well, the
it's
screens
really
also
hard to find.
deteriorate. The screens really deteriorate. So I
Right.
bought when I was writing Pure Invention. I actually rebought a Game Boy. I had one in 89, 90 when they first came out in the States. And it like I had to get the screen refurbished. I actually had to pay a bunch to get it like
Mm.
fixed up. The plastic was fine, but like the screens go bad. And so, it's a great system. Like it doesn't have a backlight or anything, but like the games still really, really hold up.
No, I remember they used to have this attachment that came out like a year later with an LED with
Yes,
a like
yes,
a
yes.
remember that with lights that you could so you could be in your bedroom underneath your sheets playing your Game
Yeah,
Boy,
yeah, yeah,
and then
yeah, yeah.
eventually the backlit ones came, the green ones, and then
Yes.
the
And then
color
and like
with the
all
color
sorts of
TV.
and now they're like, a portable game system looks every bit as good as one hooked up to your TV. Back in time, they had to make all sorts of compromises. That famously, the guy who invented the Game Boy, his name is Gunpei Yokoi, and he's the same guy who invented the Ultra Hand. By the way, just to show you how long and unusual this guy
Wow.
was. He was so
Wow.
stressed out over the Game Boy's development because the screen was they were having a hard time with it. He actually had to get hospitalized for malnutrition at one point. Like yeah, he got sick. He made himself
Whoa.
sick working on it because that's how dedicated these Japanese craftspeople are. Like it's just a toy, quote unquote, but like they take it very seriously, and that's why we take it seriously. You
I
know?
think so. Well, there's this when you we talk about the work ethic because we're getting a little bit off of toys a little up here, but I think that I've changed quite a bit by being here for half my life. I think when I make these episodes, I have this perfectionist in me that is definitely something that would not have come if I had not have lived here.
Right?
So that ability to just work at that like highest
Yeah,
level.
yeah,
So many Japanese workers do that. I feel that as well sometimes. I just get in the zone. I forget to eat, and you're just
yeah, yeah,
doing
yeah, yeah. Well, we live in a
stuff like
multitasking.
this.
We live in a multitasking world,
Yeah,
right? Everybody multitasks, but Japanese craftspeople tend to like hyper focus on one thing traditionally, anyway.
right.
So, maybe that's why we love their toys so much. By the way, speaking of which, I just sent you a link in your email to the New Yorker article I wrote on that Q transforming robot lander. So you can actually see
Oh, okay.
and also if you go to my Twitter feed, Matt underscore alt on Twitter, you can actually see a video I posted of it. I shot a video of it transforming. Maybe that's even better,
Oh,
like on
okay.
Twitter, of the transformer that JAXA just landed on the moon. It should be one of the most recent posts I made. At sign.
Yeah,
That's the New Yorker piece. You can see the
yeah, a
picture of it
mini
if you angle
moon
down.
rover.
Yep,
It's not a probe, Matt. It's a
it's a
rover.
rover. Sorry, so sorry. Scroll if you
That
if
makes
you
me.
angle down, you can see a picture of what it looks like.
Oh,
See?
oh, wow.
It's like
Yeah,
the size of a baseball, and it's made of like space titanium or something, just like Gundam is. I don't know what it's made. It's made of some kind of aerospace grade material, and it cracks
that's
in
pretty
half, and
cool.
those hemispheres turn into wheels, and that's Sora Q, and it is really really cool. They're actually Takara Tomy is selling them now. You can actually buy one just like the one they launched into space. It's like 30,000 yen or something like that, but you can remote control it and drive it around or use it as a webcam or whatever. They
That's
work
right. Let's launch some more crap into space.
exactly.
We have drones buzzing around all over the place. Now let's do it in space.
Exactly. Here, I'll send you I'm gonna send you a link to the video because this is something this is something that's really fun. Um,
Oh, it's pretty cool. The article is a lot more thorough than what I got on the headline news. I there's just so many. I don't know. I've been working and driving around. I heard about it. I'm like, well, that's cool. As soon as I have some time, I'm gonna focus in on this. And then I never had the time. And then here you are telling me about it. I'm going,
yeah.
gosh, I wish I figured
Well,
this out a little
2
bit
years
more.
ago, I've been chasing this story for 2 years. I heard about it through Japanology Plus, which was the show that I was, doing for NHK for many years, and they actually took me to Takara Tomy to see it for the first time. That's where I learned about it, and
Whoa!
then I used that connection to pitch an article about it to the New Yorker, and the article ran in, like, 2022 because there was an earlier attempt to launch it that failed. But, I sent you a
Ah,
link to the video. Look at this. This is it. This is the transformation sequence. That's what it looks like rolling. And if you let the video scroll through, you'll see it actually like what it looks like when it lands. Like it's shot out from the lunar lander like a ball and when it hits the surface, it transforms into this like rolling configuration. See,
that's
I didn't
so
use the word
cool.
probe. I used lander. See? Look at this. Watch, watch, watch.
Lander rover just here it
Autobots
goes.
roll out.
Whoa!
There you go. I hope that thing has
That's so
image
cool.
stabilization. Look at that camera
I don't think
moving.
you can stabilize that. It's like putting it on a duck.
Well, on the
It
other
walks
hand,
just like a duck.
when you think about it, it's going to be rolling in like one quarter Earth's gravity, one third. So maybe like the movement is
Ah,
totally different. That's the one thing they can't test what it's going to be like in actual microgravity. So we should try to visit. We should try to visit Takaratomi. It's a really fun place. They have a great museum full of toys, and they're really cool people. The Transformers guys are there. The Zoids, if you remember those.
mm,
Lots of different, toy companies come out of there. They make the Rika-chan dolls,
right. Yeah.
Barbie's
I
Japanese
wanted to
girlfriend.
I wanted to talk to you about that as well. I used to live in Fukushima, and I remember the Rikachan Castle. There's a castle up there. No foreign tourist knows about this. The place looks desert. It looks like it's abandoned. It hasn't been renovated since the 1980s, which just makes it awesome.
Yeah.
It just Rika-chan's got like no more money. Nobody
Right,
outside
right, right,
Japan
right,
is
right,
buying
right,
it.
right,
Japan's not having any kids pretty much, so no one's buying these dolls except for collectors.
right.
So we got to make a trip up there
Oh,
ASAP
for
because I'm
sure,
always worried that they're teeter tottering on like going out of business or staying in
for
business. I
sure,
don't know,
for
but
sure.
it's but
Yeah, I'd never heard of
I
it.
can
Like, I'm a toy. I pretty much I consider myself a toy expert, and I didn't even know. I knew about the Sanrio land, but I didn't know about
yeah.
the Rika-chan land. I can't even imagine. I mean, being a guy, I focus mainly on boys' toys, like Transformers and robots and things like that. But the girls' stuff is really interesting too, like Barbie, like Rika-chan, like Hello Kitty,
Was
and
that girls or boys? Because when I was a kid, I went, that's so cool, and I actually had Hello Kitty stuff
oh, I
when I
love
was
Hello
like
Kitty.
eight.
I love Hello Kitty. Here, look. Here's my Hello
But then
Kitty.
it disappeared. Hello Kitty was out for a few years, like in the early '80s, and it disappeared for a while, and then it came back. Yeah, like stuff like this, like
Yeah.
little plastic
No,
books,
it's
and
cool. It's cool. Hey, man, I'm a
yeah,
guy and I use a Hello Kitty coin purse. Hello
yeah. But
Kitty.
you're Matt Alt.
I'm
It's
allowed to. So the way
yeah.
Sanrio was like, they were trying to introduce new characters like every season, So like Hello Kitty wasn't even their first hit. There was another one called Patty and Jimmy, who were two human characters. Then after this, there was Little Twin Stars, and like in the '80s, there's
Ah,
like Bats Maru. And now there's like even more modern ones like Gudetama, the depressed egg yolk, and like Agretzko, the red panda that like sings death metal music.
now you're talking in tongues right now. I can't find. I just know this. Okay, Matt. I remember in American shopping malls, and that was the place to be. No
Yes,
longer do people go there. They had a Sanrio or Hello Kitty store in the American shopping malls in the
yes,
early '80s.
me
Then they
too.
went away. Right. But there was about 2 or 3 years where all the kids are like, wait, what is this? And I don't think there was another toy maker that had like we had uh K and B toys, like little toy stores that they would sell in the shopping malls, but nothing like where a maker had their own shop
Yeah,
in the
yeah, those were
shopping
called
malls.
gift gates. Like the first one opened in Shinjuku, I think, in the 70s, and they were all over the world. But
Ah,
so there's an interesting thing. Hello Kitty was the biggest thing in the 70s and 80s, and then it kind of crashed. She kind of crashed. And the reason that Hello Kitty made a huge comeback was because in the 1990s, Japanese schoolgirls and office ladies started
oh
carrying
yeah.
around Hello Kitty stuff ironically as like, kind of like, oh, I'm cool. I can carry around. I can be a big girl and carry around Hello Kitty stuff too. And that kind of kicked off a boom for Hello Kitty among adults. And I honestly think Hello Kitty is bigger among grown women and probably men than it is around little girls these days. But Sanrio's doing great. They're still around. The stores are still. They
Oh
just
yeah.
renovated the Shinjuku store, so we should go there. We
Oh
should go to the
okay.
Shinjuku Sanrio store.
Absolutely. I'm really curious. I like the private collections of Hello Kitty as well. Let's get into the Hello Kitty for just a second with the Wakaki-san. But Blind Man Travels writes in here, hey, that Game Boy really brought back memories for me because playing games like Zelda and Mario was my first introduction to Japan. Not just the system, like
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
16-bit
yeah.
games. You remember? It was like,
Yes,
8-bit was the first, and NES was 8-bit. And I remember it was like, whoa, this blows the Atari out of the water. We
yes, yes.
like it was game. And then there was what was it? The Turbo Graphics was also
16, the
something that
TurboGrafx 16. That's the
yeah,
PC engine in Japan, and then
yeah,
there were a bunch of like the Atari Lynx came out and the Atari Jaguar. But I actually think the Game Boy is, and I write about this in Pure Invention. The Game Boy is the most pivotal fantasy delivery device, the object that transformed the way the world sees
right.
Japan. Like more than the Walkman, more than karaoke, more even than anime. Like the Game Boy was like mainlining Japanese like pop culture in your bedroom. Like you were just it was like a digital drug, and it just transformed
Oh
all of our
yeah,
lives.
you could play games on the toilet. Everybody was doing that. This is before the smartphone. This
Just
got
wash
people.
your hands.
Everybody. You just wash your hands, but I mean, you could take your game everywhere because you
Yes.
couldn't take your TV anywhere. And I mean, this was the toy to have when it came out for like 2, 3 years. And those little cartridges in those games were the things that
Yes.
mothers
Yes.
and it was just huge. And that game transformed everything. Of the NES was really amazing, but Game Boy, man,
Yeah.
nobody. I don't think all the other makers didn't see this coming.
Well, yeah, and
Like,
you
it's
get like
totally.
in my mind, and I think you can really make this argument. I kind of do in my book that Walkman plus Game Boy equals iPhone. Like I think Steve
Yeah.
Jobs got the idea for this, like to combine these things together in a really cool way from Sony. And also, I think from Nintendo. I mean, the naming of these things, like Walkman, Game Boy, they're like they feel like
Yeah.
buddies. They feel like your friends. They don't feel like technology. And
Astro Boy,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Ultraman,
yeah,
they're taking
yeah, yeah, yeah,
the
yeah,
future.
for
Yeah,
sure,
that's
for
so
sure.
cool.
Yeah,
A lot of people
no,
don't know that Nintendo started doing with paper, and that was something that really fascinated me. Like that company is quite old,
oh yeah,
and they were doing
1880s.
trading cards. Yeah, 1880s
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Nintendo.
They're found 1889, I think, is when they were founded.
Holy macaroni! That's like the same as my university.
Yeah, it's like 100 and what is that? 100 and like 40 years old. It's crazy, and they're the most cutting
Yeah,
edge. There's other 140-year-old companies out there, like Mitsukoshi or something like that. I'm sure in Europe.
yeah. No, Mitsukoshi is 300 years old last
Okay,
year.
there you go. There you go. And I know in Europe there's like hundreds of year old like companies and brands,
Oh
but
yeah.
like Nintendo's 140 years old that's like cutting edge. It's insane. It's amazing.
The image is not what we see today, and that's really cool. Maybe we'll have to dig into that as well. There's so much with toys and
Oh, for
that.
sure.
I wanted to go back to Hello Kitty for a minute. I know that the Wakaki-san's didn't have a lot of Hello Kitty
No.
in his store, and we didn't want to talk about this purposely. I mean, because this is such a big part of Japanese toy history, we didn't talk about this purposely because it's kind of a sad story. I
Mhm.
thought,
Mhm.
but yeah, the one thing I think with toy owners and private collectors are toy collectors, and toys are things that I love appreciate giving toys to Leo, my son. He's
Sure.
2, he's 3. I love it when his eyes get big. My eyes sort of do get big when I get new toys with just cameras and
Yes,
gimbals and
yes,
things like
big
this,
big
new
boy toys.
computers, big boy toys. But I guess the one thing I just like he didn't really have a lot of love for the resellers, did he? And
Well,
I guess it's sort of like,
yeah, yeah. I think he
and
even
that's
said
the
that.
big company. Oh, oh, did we lose Matt here? Yeah, the big company. There's a reseller in Nakano and in Shibuya as well now. Mandarake, I think it is. There's nothing wrong with them, but they get their toys from somewhere, and sometimes, I don't know. Maybe they don't pay the collectors the price that they're actually worth or something. I don't know, but
Can you
there
hear
seem to
me?
be. I can hear you, but we can't see you. Anyways, this is gonna be there'll be a
So
part two to
sorry.
this. We were gonna. Oh, it's all right. We're gonna do we're gonna do this as an OBS like proper live stream, but I have all the equipment. I don't know if you can see in my studio here. I have all
Very
the
cool.
equipment set
Very
out here
cool.
to do it, but we just couldn't. I just couldn't get it up in time because Matt has to go in about a minute.
Yes, I have to. I have to get somewhere.
Anyways,
Well, thanks for having me, though. I really appreciated this.
you're welcome. I'm glad that you could join and we could try out this format because I'd never done anything like this as well. If you're just joining us for the first time, Matt joined me on this episode called Japanese Toys That Changed Our World or something like that, and from 1954 to 2000. I don't know
You
what the
don't even
title is,
remember
but
your
it's
own title. You don't even remember your own
well,
title.
I changed it. What was it called? Okay, Japanese Toys That Changed the Game. I changed it
Yes. Well, it's an
to add in
amazing
game in there.
episode. It was an amazing experience. Thank you for those who are posting links to my book in the chat. I think that's really awesome. Please, by all means, check it out if you like Japanese toys, or even if you don't. And let's do this again, John. It's just too much fun.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We'll get in here. Maybe come on over into the studio.
Oh
That's what it
yes,
is.
we can be
Well,
like back and forth.
it might be better. Yeah, whatever. It's all good. But I appreciate the time to go up to Hokkaido to make this episode a reality, and your feedback and expertise was amazing to make
Yes.
this one of the best episodes that we've had,
Amazing,
and
amazing stuff.
more to
Thank you.
come.
Yes. Well, let's
More to
let's do it
come.
again.
Well,
I'm gonna sign out, but thank you so much for having me.
you're welcome. Bye
Okay,
bye,
catch you
Matt.
later.
All right, so it's just me now, and I don't know how this format worked. This is the first time that I've tried this new YouTube feature that they have, where we can split the screens and then we can have a guest on. I think it's really cool, but live streaming is in its on mobile devices. I'm using the iPhone right now. It's still like in its infancy. It really is. I was doing this in 2017, and to do something like this, I couldn't even imagine. And now here we are, where I can bring in guests just on the iPhone. Now, there's other software that probably can allow me to do this. This is natively on the iPhone app, but um, we'll try to get Matt back on, which we wanted to do on the widescreen, on the big cameras, and really focus in on more of the toys. I had clips. He actually has his own private collection that he was going to show us, which is kind of a shame. But we'll be back with Matt and talk more about the toys. I just want to make sure that you are all interested in this topic. So make sure you let me know in the comments below or in the chat, and I'll take some questions here. If you want to see more from us. Now, on the main channel episode, we do intend to make another toy episode. And it's not just for you. We just have a lot of fun when we're traveling around and getting out of what we normally do. To take on a topic, for me, going and doing toys is really special. But I think for Matt, just getting into a car and driving off to a location and doing something that's different from what he does with Japanology, a show that he used to be on, and I think that's really kind of special for the channel as well. Um, yeah, I'm getting Matt's like, I got to make sure. I think Matt had gotten a notification from somebody and that turned off his camera. So we got to turn off all the notifications and stuff like that when you start this on the smartphones. That's something I have to remember as well. I'm going to take some questions here. If you have it, you could do it in the live chat just for a couple of minutes before we sign off here. I saw that Jason has been sharing the link to Matt's book. It's a fantastic book. Matt half Japanese? David USA writes in here. Matt is 100% American like me. However, both of us have lived half our lives in Japan, so that makes us half Japanese in a way. I think if you ask us where our hearts lie, it's probably going to be here because this is where our friends, our family, and our expertise is. But the one thing is, you cannot separate the American in us because Japan lets us know that we're not Japanese as well, and we don't want to be Japanese because then for me, I would lose my connection to what is my value to Japan is that I can connect with all of you in English from an American point of view. So from that, I'm not happy at Japanese, and neither is Matt. We're American, but we've been here for so long. We probably our hearts are here too. So maybe we are in that way, so to speak. I remember I interviewed the Indian curry guy in Higashi Ginza, amazing curry. Niall-san is his name. And I asked Niall-san, I said, Niall-san, you've been here like all your life. Your father came here from India in the 1930s, fleeing from there because he was something of an activist. And you mostly know Japan over India, but you look Indian. I said, where is your heart? And he goes, Japan. And I could really respect that. I kind of knew that he would say that, but he doesn't look Japanese. So his Japanese is incredible. I hope he's doing well. I haven't talked to him in a very long time. If you were able to have a stream while talking with guests through Discord, it would maybe be more practical. Yeah, I can't do it. I can't live stream Discord onto YouTube yet. I think Discord has a lot of possibility to just do stuff like this. But what I wanted to do today was to connect Discord into a chat and have people could call in on Discord and we'd be able to ask Matt questions like a call-in show, which would be pretty awesome. After we did our spiel for about 15, 20 minutes, we'd be able to take questions from you about toys and things like this. So with the podcast that I'm doing, and one of the reasons why I love the fact that we can build up our Discord, I think we have like 16, 17,000 people there, is that I want to build it up as a community where we can use this for our podcasting platform and our moderators can kind of screen the calls because I don't want to get I get like some people that are sometimes drunk or we cannot understand what they're saying or they don't know what they're going to ask and they just go crazy because they're like live on the show and stuff like this. Maybe not the best for to creating a show that people that normal people want to watch. It's always lively, but I think we want to put this into the podcast format. And with all the people that I know and Matt knows and all the friends, Peter and Adam and like I've been working in the media industry before YouTube was around. I started making videos in Japan in 2003, and I started with Japanese TV in 2007. And I know just a ton of people, but all the expats that have been here for like 15, 20 years are experts in whatever that they're doing. Even the English teachers. I mean, if you've been English teaching for 25 years, that makes you pretty special. It's like really special. How can you do that for so long? But I like the fact that my friends, the people that I know, the expats, or some of them are now full Japanese, are have just amazing stories to tell themselves. So unlike other YouTubers here in Japan that are doing podcasts, I'll probably draw on the expertise of my friends as well as my own. Being here for 26 years this year is, I've been everywhere like 4 times now. I think just maybe Saga Prefecture down in Kyushu. I haven't been there for a fourth time. That's between Nagasaki and Fukuoka. I've been everywhere, like almost everywhere. I still get stumped a little bit, but Worm writes in here, great job. Well, thank you for the super chat here. Great job. The toys were my introduction to Japan as well as the early animated shows. Yes. Uh, what's your favorite toy or media? It's got to be the Game Boy for me. Was just changed everything. I didn't think of it as being Japanese at the time though. I don't know why. It just like was everywhere in America. But I think Speed Racer and Star Blazers. I forget. There were anime that were running in the 1980s on TV as a kid, and they were so radically different and so much more fun to watch than the Smurfs. And I thought that probably left the biggest impact. But I never got into it enough where I became a fanboy on Japanese anime and manga back in the early '80s. But I knew that it existed. Speed Racer was amazing. Like just the angles, the shots, it was so cinematic and so the storylines were much deeper than cartoons just for kids. And I thought I really appreciated that as a kid. One thing that kids don't like is when you talk down to them because they're a kid. Kids kids want to be talked to like they're adults. And I felt like those kinds of anime, they did that to me. And I respected that. So that was my gateway in. And the toys that I had, of course, there were Transformers. I didn't get into it. I was playing sports mostly, so I'd be happy with a simple football, like unlike Ralphie in a Christmas story. I would have been happy with a baseball or a Nerf ball. I remember getting those Nerf balls. You'd throw them and they'd whistle like whoa, things like this. Those rockets with water that you would pump, and then you go psh, and the rocket would shoot maybe like 100 feet into the sky. Sometimes they would just explode. Toys like that were a lot of fun when I was a kid. Bicycles. I remember getting a banana seat bicycle in 1983, 82, and riding that around. I think it was a Schwinn, the yellow bicycle seat. I mean, it was a banana seat that actually had a banana colored seat. It was sort of geeky. It wasn't the color that I wanted, Dad, but it was nice. I don't think I knew what I wanted anyways. Lawn darts, right? And pickle drone. Yeah, there are tons of toys here that yeah, Kamen Rider, Sailor Moon, there Bebop Cowboy. There were a lot of anime that at the time it just never broke through to mainstream, at least not in the early 1980s. But I came to Japan in '98, and I didn't know too much about anime or manga. I didn't come here for that. I came here because of the job, and it would let me earn money so I could backpack and travel around more. Because I'd been to I'd backpacked and traveled Europe and been to India once, and I wanted to see more of Asia. My roommate was a Japanese major, and he was kind of a weird guy. He had a futon at Ohio State University. He's sleeping on the floor on a futon. I'm like, what? Like, why are you sleeping on the floor? It looked like a dog pad. I don't understand it. You're in America. Like, he'd have Playboy, but it was the Japanese version, that kind of a guy, which is, respectable. But he was like way, way out there. And he got me to come to Japan for the first time. And like, he spoke Japanese fairly good because he majored in it. And now it's funny because now I speak Japanese way better than he does and read and write more than he does. And that was his thing. Now I don't know what he's doing now. I got to find out and catch up to him. But a lot of funny stories. This is like 98, 99. I think he went back in 2003, and I haven't heard from him much since for like 20 years. Nicholas Boothman writes in here. Thank you, John, showing the Showa era area of Tokyo. You're welcome. And the cop manga statues. That was Kamiari. I love that little town. In fact, I just showed you just the tip of it, so you can go and find them yourself. There are 14 statues in Kamiare, and it's worth traveling out there just for that. You can get something to eat and then just travel back to Tokyo on the Joban line, which isn't too far away. I'll get some fan art with Urameshi and Kuwabara being cuffed by him. Yeah, it's a that show was like Tokyo Cops or something. Tokyo Cop Beat, I think it was named in English. It didn't quite fit, but it was definitely an iconic manga on Shonen Jump here for 30 years. It's a pretty long time. It's a pretty long time. Thanks for that. I'm not sure if I'm a fan of the vertical format, but it's interesting to try out new things, and we'll keep doing this with this channel. Programming note: tomorrow, I'll do another live stream in the morning. I think walking around. Oh, and I'm going to be releasing the Wakaki-san interview. It's like 40 minutes long, I think, where he's just talking about his history, about the toys, and me and Matt are probing him, like asking questions. And but I have to be honest with you, Matt's Japanese is way better than mine. He's way smarter than me as well. But like, I'm understanding like about 85% of everything that he's saying. I think maybe it was just like the toy talk on the manga and anime and stuff that I just couldn't wrap my head around, and some of the materials that they used. I couldn't understand that in Japanese, but uh, I think pretty much get the picture. But I think we asked pretty good questions in the interview. I know I had to keep him on target because we had a limited amount of time. We had a flight to catch, so it's not like we could sit there and ask questions. Because his stories, when he started the stories, they would go on, which is great. But I would have to interrupt just based on time. So just keep that in mind. I'm there as a reporter, as somebody with limited time, and I have to get Matt home as well because Matt's a busy person too. So I'm thinking about that. So as much as fun as we're having just talking and shooting the breeze, we had to film this. And I'm filming in 8K, and that camera overheats. So I knew I had to stop it and start it every now and then to let it cool down. So there's lots of elements going on in my mind when I'm filming. It's not just asking the questions, but there's like 17 dimensions here. I got to get on a flight to get home. I have to get the rental car, make sure I return that on time. I have to make sure it might even snow, so I have to beat the snow out. Uh, I got to make sure that Matt's okay. I have to get the car packed and all the camera gear away in time. I have to make sure that the camera doesn't overheat. I have to make sure that I ask all the questions that I need before we leave. So there's a ton of things going on in my mind. I have to make sure the audio is actually being recorded, because if it doesn't, gosh, I'd have to come back and do it again. So there's always a bunch of things going on in my head as I'm on location filming this stuff that maybe you don't realize. I think StreamYard will allow you to have up to 10 people on a screen. I think so, but I learned that StreamYard does not work well with mobile live streaming, and this is the biggest problem with StreamYard. Like, I couldn't change the cameras. This is why I used the Prism instead of the StreamYards. To be able to use the iPhone, it had too many limitations with their software to pay for it. It's good as a studio one over OBS, but you can do 10 people in OBS too. You just have to link it up in the scenes and stuff. But StreamYard did not have a good mobile streaming app yet, and it was paid. So you'd have to pay for something that wasn't as good as something that was free, which is crazy. So I'll probably go back to StreamYard later on. I'm not sure how Prism is working, but it would be fun to have guests and walk around. But as I said, I'm going to turn more to the podcasting format. I've got mics, lights, everything now. Soon we'll have a background, and this will be easier to approach news stories as they happen. I can just go live and bring you, at a moment's notice, information about Japan in a more watchable format, which is this camera, which looks better than this camera, which is good. I want to say thank you to Matt Alt. Pure Invention is his book. Yokai Attack. He has a bunch of books out there. He's a writing machine. He also does columns. He does so much for print media. I'm trying to get him into YouTube, and I think a lot of you that are toy lovers will appreciate it. His knowledge is incredible, and to be on this platform, YouTube, I would love to see him here. He'd have 1 million subscribers in no time, just based on how much information it is. But this goes to the core of what I like to do as a creator. I like to make sure that I get experts, people who really know what they're talking about, because I might know a lot of things, but they know a lot more, and that's the value of subscribing to this channel. So I appreciate it very much. And to our Patreon supporters, thanks for making this possible. This should be coming. There's a picture of me and Matt on the back there. Do you see that? With Wakaki-san. This helps us support the channel, and I appreciate it. I also have daimyo boxes where I'll send you goods from Japan. And I reopened the normal daimyo tier, so that really does help too. I appreciate it all very much. I'll see you again tomorrow, maybe in the morning. I'll let you know when we have a live stream to do it, and we'll try another. I'll try a studio podcast test, maybe with Kanai or something. Just try this format sometime next week. But I'm working on a video right now, so I got to get back to editing. See everybody. I didn't. Was there any questions? Like, it's going by so quick. I've already, by the way, asked if moderators could highlight questions that were good to put on the top. Any plans to cover video games or old arcades in more in depth? Rods Al Ghul. I actually did one on the old channel. Don't watch it. Well, you could. It's up to you. But um, I probably would if I can find some more video game arcades. I know it's a dying thing, but it's not a new thing. So let's see what I can do with that in 2024. There's lots of things that I want to approach, but the retro stuff, I have a feeling like a lot of the Showa era stuff is now leaving us. So there's a limited amount of time. This isn't just things; it's also people. So last year and this year, I kind of want to try to focus on the stories of the generation that we're now losing, that survived through World War II, as well as the games and the items and the houses and the structures and things like this, that I think in 100 years people could be watching only in Japan, going, "Wow, this is where we can really learn about the soul of Japan," because no longer in an earthquake-prone country, one major earthquake, and you could lose so many of these older buildings that are just like hanging on by a thread, right? So I got to get around and film even more of that. I appreciate the question and asking about that. Um, all right, guys. Nicholas writes in here, my first anime was the American version of Macross Robotech. Grew up watching war movies like Eastwood and Burton, Where Eagles Dare. Absolutely. Yeah, me too. Back in the some of the best movies came in the 70s and 80s, but then there was like this 80s period where they went to VHS too much. I'm not talking about adult videos. I'm just saying the quality of the videos in the 80s probably was not the greatest once VHS came out, but there was the film stuff in the 70s and early 80s, and the Spielberg stuff was just so darn good, because I think You had a budget and you had to nail it. You had to nail the story. So there weren't too many flops when you had a big budget, not too many. But nowadays it's so easy to make these videos that people will get these movies out before they're probably done, and the risk financially is too high, which is why we get all these superhero movies and sequel after sequel after sequel, because the risk is lower. So I hope that the artistry of movies and cinema of Hollywood come back, because the lack of creativity is not there. Thank goodness for YouTube. Thank you, YouTube. You can find everything here. Betamax, R.W. Smith. Don't even get me started there. Oh, now we're getting into it. Stop it. Betamax is far superior to VHS. Why it failed, I don't know. Sony. Sony wasn't always on the top of its game. Okay. Very cool. Betamax, it was smaller too. I don't know. I guess VHS just took over because of, you know what it was? I think it could have been greed. It could have been straight out greed is why Betamax. Betamax, everything was just way too expensive. And VHS opened up the platform like open source, and every maker was making VHS stuff. It just was more accessible to more people, and Betamax just ate itself out, and I ate itself up, and I think that's what happened. Maybe same with Laserdisc. Japanese corporations, though, sometimes are way too greedy and don't see the fact that in order for new tech to be adapted, you have to have it at a price point that people could afford. Like microwave ovens in the 1980s were not cheap. Now you can get them for like 80, 75, $70 or something. They used to be 1,000 or 2,000 or $3,000 back in the 70s and 80s. So not until the tech becomes cheap enough, and then the cheaper tech will get adopted by more people. Then it becomes a standard. That's, I think, how VHS won, if I remember correctly. Anyways, $35 for a microwave. That's even crazier. But Beta had 480 lines of resolution compared to VHS's 240, but VHS was better marketed and cheaper. And that's what people wanted. You could get a VHS player for like a third of what a Betamax was. So people didn't really care about the quality when you could just see the image. It was hard to see anyways because the TVs really weren't that much better. But now you could tell the difference. But Betamax is far superior, if I remember correctly. It's just they were too expensive. Um, Sony lost that battle. They lost a lot of battles until they won with PlayStation. I remember they were losing a lot of battles, but they turned it around. Now Sony's pretty big with a lot of stuff. They have pretty much own the movie. Sony Pictures is massive, and they combine that with their cameras and their gear and stuff. And they're very good. But I think Sony is more seen in Japan, interestingly enough, as more of a North American company than a Japanese company in a way, because they market more in the U.S. than they do in Japan. And I'll talk to Matt about this more. But the history of Sony is fascinating. It's fascinating. All right, guys, I gotta go. I don't even know if this is a mic that's working. Guys, for watching.